Hey everyone, good morning here at the brand new House Now 3D podcast. We're going to talk about innovations in house building, definitely centered around 3D type of construction, 3D concrete printing, but also we know there's a lot of adjacent spaces and modular and there's a whole slew of new building tech coming on. Reynaldo Santana is one of the founders of House Now 3D. And we're really excited to get his story as we kick off these first few episodes of the House Now 3D podcast. So Ray, thank you for showing up here this morning and sharing your story.
Thank you so much, Johnny. Good morning to you, and good morning to all the listeners today listening to this podcast. It's great to be here.
Fantastic, man. Fantastic. So we know this podcast will have the focus of, high impact. Actually, there's kind of a double play on words there. We want to do impact investing, but this will have high impact. People will listen to it. It'll be short vignettes of different things going on around the industry. And that's the format this will be in. So let's kick it off with some questions here. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how did you got involved in, I know you have a background in tech, but then we'll also segue, of course, into the construction tech space. But yes, give us the first, who is Ray?
Well, it's great. That's a great question, Johnny. It's been a question I'm trying to understand all these years, but I think I'm getting to know who I am much more. Well, I'm a first generation here in the US, family's from the Dominican Republic. And like you mentioned, yes, I've been in tech now for 14, 15 years, working with artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality, creating new technologies, building new product services. I worked in corporate, small, medium businesses. I worked also in many startups, both in the US and outside the US. So I've been fortunate to really see the world in different lenses. And it has humbled me down enough that all I care about is just helping people and creating some big impact. And I guess with all that journey has brought me to real estate technologies, or you can say prop tech, property technology, into 3D printing. So aside from that, you can also say that Ray has been playing music as a hobby since the age of 7. So one of my passions is playing music. I'm a trumpeter, and I've been playing with the MIT Wind Ensemble, the Boston University Pep Band, the Boston College Symphonic Band. I've done my own little mixing here in my own house. I do karaoke for fun. I do some good Frank Sinatra and mariachi. So I'm pretty diverse when it comes to skill sets and hobbies.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. And Ray and I visited in the fall of 2022, folks. And yes, and Ray actually has an excellent pair of natural pipes on him. So I know he's a real musician here. This is not just one self-congratulation here. He actually has the ability to back up his what he's saying here. So he's an awesome dude to know here. So that's amazing, man. So let's move on to kind of the next piece here. What motivated you to learn? And then also this is something else, of course, people don't know, but you founded a nonprofit. So what kind of drew you into that? I mean, obviously you can assume some of the background that made a lot of sense, but also it's a field that I and a lot of people that I'm around don't really know about. We hear about, but then also it's kind of this adjacent field to what a lot of us are aware of. So what pulled you into that? And how'd you end up starting your own?
Yeah, so I was helping a buddy of mine named Brendan with his nonprofit, getting it set up, helping get some grants. And as I'm learning, about some of the roadblocks, the pain points went through, I started to understand more about the benefits that a nonprofit can provide. And at the same time, I was researching 3D printing. I was researching affordable housing, what was happening in the market. So as I'm helping my friend kind of create his nonprofit, I thought about, what if I create my own nonprofit focused on affordable housing? This is back last year, 2022. And at the same time, I'm thinking about what happened in 2020 when we were doing, the pandemic, the COVID. Many folks had no homes. Many folks couldn't afford homes. So I thought about, okay, there has to be a solution to this. Yes, we need more houses. We got that, but what else is needed? And I want to think outside the box in terms of, all right, so if I can help people get homes, great. But how can I prevent the next COVID or pandemic to affect people's lives? So I thought about creating a community inside of a community, which basically means that as we build these communities and people start paying their rent, that rent would go into a fund where that fund will be invested into other sort of assets to create more sustainable funds for the community. And as this fund would grow, if there's to come of any sort of pandemic or a virus, just like COVID, and you can't pay your rent, or you can't pay your bills or your internet, or you're not able to buy groceries or etc. If you qualify for a program that we offer, then the funds that we have there will be for folks to help them pay for those sort of bills or expenses that they have.
That's
I don't
amazing,
want
man.
any family to worry about money when there's a pandemic going on or a virus.
Yeah. Or the next black swan event, the next unexpected event that we just can't predict, just because no one predicted the pandemic. I mean, yeah, we can't even conjure up what nature or, society might throw at us, or a mixture of the two.
Exactly. Not only that, but I was pretty disappointed in how the government handled this whole situation.
Sure.
Like
across the world, or particularly you, obviously you're we're all U.S. citizens, so or the U.S. mainly.
Well, I experienced more of the U.S. what was happening here personally, but I know every country had their issues, their left and right running around, what to do. But I can speak to what I saw here in the U.S. and the government is not organized. And you think that after so many years, you would think that a government will have this plan B, plan C, plan D ready to go if anything were to happen.
Yes.
But surprising, they weren't ready. So I believe in empowerment, and I believe that sometimes we can't rely on a third party. We can't rely on the government. And sometimes we have to just get our hands dirty and make something happen as a community. This is how ants also work. They work together.
Oh, ants. Okay, now we're using ant analogies here. Okay, go for it.
Exactly. I was taught, growing up in church, that a community should be like an ant colony. They all work together to survive, to get food, to save for winter. And that's how we should be as human beings, work as ants together.
That's a powerful analogy, using nature. I mean, nature is so many thousand millennia, so many millennia have passed, and nature has really perfected some really, really simple but powerful algorithms and systems and things like that. At least the way I think of it as an engineer, and it's very, very incredible.
Exactly.
One thread I didn't quite pull on enough, and just for the continuity of story here, Ray, real quick. The space of affordable housing attracted you. Yes, you saw it in the pandemic in 2020, but was there some other more personal story there? If you could just touch on that real quick, or maybe you just saw just a need and it attracted you. Doesn't have to be a story. I just was curious if there was something a little deeper there that magnetically pulled you toward that.
Well, there was a reason why I got pulled into 3D printing, and I got pulled into affordable housing. And basically, I have to let you know why. So number 8, I grew up in the projects, they call it, or I guess low income housing. And I remember that, I remember how living was. I remember my neighbors, the kids playing the block. I remember that there wasn't many opportunities. I remember that some homes were expensive. There weren't many programs for folks around. So I've always wanted to help people in some ways in terms of housing. Number 2 is that when I lost my job in 2020, like a lot of us did, I couldn't find a job in my virtual reality space where I was in. And that's when I decided to get into real estate. I took my savings and I invested into my education. I went to MIT and Harvard for their certificate program for real estate. And I started learning, and I started networking with my peers. And I came across a gentleman from a company called Southport Financial in Connecticut. And we were talking about, real estate. And I told him that, I really wanted to start a career in real estate, but I had no track record.
Yes.
And he told me, well, Ray, you may not have a track record in real estate, but you do have a strong track record in tech. If you didn't know, in real estate, they're behind in tech and they need more tech people. So I was like, interesting. So he's like, you should do some research about that. So I was doing a lot of research, and I came across that, yes, indeed, real estate is behind in tech. And there's a lot of different areas that I could add value to. And that's where I stumbled upon 3D printing. And when I saw that, it just blew my mind in terms of the possibilities.
Yeah.
The market time, everything it was just aligning. And I'm like, this is where I want to focus on, because I want to focus on something that's big, impactful, because I get bored pretty easily, Johnny.
Yes.
And before anything related to 3D printing, I was focusing on, virtual reality. I remember in 2016, 2017 on my Facebook, I was promoting remote distance learning, remote distance working, virtual
Yes.
simulations, immersive environment, like all this stuff. And people are like, are you crazy? Yo's in the future. But look what happened in 2020, right? COVID came and then boof, remote working, remote distance learning,
Virtual
VR.
reality became actual reality. We're still, I mean, we're still virtual, but it's like then it became the norm. It became, accepted. Just became, that's what we all did, right?
Exactly. And
Mm.
that's one thing in my life, Johnny, that it's happened like a few times where I keep working on something innovative that's too early.
Yeah.
It's not ready for the market. Then it happens later on.
Yeah.
So this is a third.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing. Really, I mean, that's I mean, it's a combination of probably personality, skill, luck, and education. That you're in that, but then also that is the time to get in those things, because when a technology pops finally, that means that there's been hundreds of professionals, specialists working on it. All of a sudden it became mature enough, and the right conditions, the right incubation happened in society, that it now kind of like leap forward some exponential time horizon to a time horizon that can now unfold. um
Exactly.
so I know, just to we'll keep this moving along here. So I know, so within all that, you're in Boston. There's lots and lots of the most famous educational institutions in the world, actually, at Boston and or MIT and Harvard and more. So there's definitely a culture of that here. So I know you started pursuing your PhD at Liberty, right? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah,
Liberty
yeah.
University in
And
Virginia.
then, so I think there's another thread here that really interested in tugging on just a little bit here, Ray, and that is your networking. I think I've just observed you and watched you, and you have this amazing ability to network and connect with just people in academia, in government, in the private sector here. What is give the folks a couple of your success secrets, if you would, for being such a power connector, and just having so many just a web of influence and networks.
Yeah, Johnny, for sure. So number one is be bold.
Be bold. I like that.
Yeah, when I started, this 3D printing journey, first thing I did was just go straight to the top. I contacted CEOs of different 3D printing companies just to get their insights, just to learn more about the industry, learn about what they're working on, their machines, their technology, their materials, just to dive in. I think when I started, it was still, you said early in the industry, that many of these folks, they wanted to have more conversations. They wanted to spread the message out
Oh,
there.
there's a natural desire there then. Yeah, for them to get their message the other way. You wanted information, but they also wanted to spread what they had,
Exactly.
to more people.
The cool thing is that for each conversation, I learned something new. And that something new that I learned, I brought it with me to the next conversation, you
Yeah.
see? So I kept building on. And the interesting thing is that at the time, it was a very small world in 3D printing. So
What time frame was this? Like 2020, or was it beyond that?
this is 2020. This is
Okay, yeah, okay. So just, I mean, we're not talking like, like ancient history. We're talking just like 24 months ago,
correct.
or a
Correct.
little beyond, whatever. But yeah, very very recent.
Very recent, and it was a small world. Every time, I mentioned, hey, do you know this person? Yeah, I know them very well. It's like, oh, interesting. So CEOs knew different CEOs, and
Right.
what they were working on, which is great. So that's one thing, is to be bold and just go out there and ask the question. I got invited to a ranch in Florida, which was the first cold bought distributor in the U.S. They're called Printed Farms. I spoke to Jim Ritter, and Frederick. I think they were co-founders of Printed Farms, and they welcomed me with open arms. They were an open
Yes.
book,
Yeah.
because they told me the reason they're like that is because they want this industry to move forward, to grow, to have more competition, have more machineries, have more people to build in 3D printing. And that's really the best way. I think many folks get business the wrong way, where they think you always have to compete.
Yeah.
Competing is good because it helps to, again, move things forward. But to make it move forward as well, you have to educate people. You have to create partnerships. You have to work together to make this industry grow. So they taught me that.
I also think that's a little bit of a modern take and a modern flavor that's kind of like, seeping into business, is this leading with value, leading of sharing, leading of, not to be like, too fluffy, but like literally with just with technology and the internet and the different things kind of merging together, there's an expectation that people don't even actually realize. But if you look at the most successful companies, they are giving away some of their best stuff. They're giving away, so much content and education and whatnot. And then it's the implementation, and it still relies on, of course, technical skills and managers and precise, integration. But also, they really are leading and giving away some of their best, IP or content, if you would. I mean, look at Elon Musk. He's made tons of the patents just open. So that's kind of incredible. And that's kind of a newer trend in business, I would say.
I agree 100%. And I try to make my goal that each week I speak to a new nonprofit or a new for-profit or a new individual about 3D printing, educate them on what's happening. Because I think each person has a large network. So if I can influence one person, and that person can influence other people. And my personal goal since 2020, since the pandemic, has been to impact 1 billion people through technology and through real estate. And I'm telling you, and this is another tip for networking, is share your vision with people, share your passion, share your energy with people. And believe it or not, it does attract the right people to you. People do speak about you, and they introduce people to you because of your energy and your passion. And that has helped a lot. I think now after 2-3 years of promoting this 1 billion people impact and kind of creating a lot more affordable housing using this technology has brought the right folks into my life to make that possible. So that's important. Number 2 is to have a vision of where you want to go and share that with people.
Okay. Have a vision and share. And of course, that's been like 5 minutes just gold right there of just the networking side, Ray. So that's been very valuable. And I love these little segments to go along on our show. And it's just like nugget packed. Like so many little things you could just do a short vignette, and then you'd get something out of it. We just did there. So that's amazing. So progress. Go ahead. Oh, you have some.
All right. Go ahead. One more golden nugget that's been really important that I've seen it's working is, you don't have to be the expert in the room. If you don't know the answer, just tell folks, listen, that's a great question. I don't know. However, what I do know is that this is my passion. I want to impact so many people, and I can't do it alone. I need people like yourself to come together, work together, and get our minds together to make this happen. And I've been using that for the past few years, and it's working tremendously.
Yeah.
And I think people like people to be transparent and open, and not kind of what's called around the bush, push around the bush. I forgot what the slogan is, but trying to go in circles versus just being direct.
But I think we address the psychology there, Ray. That is like instantly, you have there's instant level of humility. So you're elevating their status, or you're putting each other at the same level, right? So they're your peers versus you're up here handing down knowledge like God. And then also there's a shared there's a common pursuit. That's also, there's also a bonding element there. So when you share, there's a humility, there's the common thread, there's the kind of the common purpose, then people can get behind that and like, hey, yeah, we're actually in this together. And I think that's a key piece of that, why that statement or that phrase has been effective for you.
Correct.
Yeah. Awesome, man. So that's an incredible segment. So yeah, let's continue here. So if this is probably kind of like a little bit maybe not the most fair question, what the most promising developments in the space using 3D, what are some of the things you've seen? And if you're not there yet in your kind of academic and professional work, we can just move over to that questioner. But what are some of the most promising things you've seen in the 3D space? Obviously just making affordable housing, but some other more forward thinking ideas and concepts, and maybe even second and third order consequences of what that might mean.
Yeah, based upon my research and what I've seen around the world, is in terms of the developments and technologies for this area, is the use of modular construction techniques is building.
Yes.
Seeing more components being manufactured offsite and then assembled on-site. I'm seeing a lot more use of different types of robotics and automation in the construction process.
Yes.
And basically is seeing the promising of new materials that are sustainable and affordable, using plastics, bioplastics, using even different type of fruit skins in some countries.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You're surprised that a mango peel can be used for various things, materials that can be used even for cups, for plates to make that. I mean, it's remarkable, the science around materials overall. I think it's going to be something that's going to be ongoing for several years as we come up. just
Right.
because there's a lot to be explored. So
Awesome.
when it comes to materials and strategies, I'm seeing developments there. I'm seeing a lot of development in artificial intelligence for designing purposes, where you can just enter a few inputs and it comes out with a design that matches your interests based upon data that has received from you, or data that has received from other blueprints that you have feed the system. So overall, I think artificial intelligence is getting smart enough that it's going to help overall machines to print faster, print smarter. I think designers to have designs to be created a lot faster based on interests of
Also will drive down the costs. Every time, I guess one thing throughout all this is the efficiency, and then the whole chain. Think of like a supply chain of human beings. So we have like architects and designers, and then drafts people, and then CAD design, CAD work, and all this kind of stuff. So if you can shrink the time spent, and then the number of professions that need every one of those things, that's going to radically cut costs for each segment of that additional load on a building, right? So
that's cool.
not that that's like the main focus here, but that's a huge thing. So if you're in the affordable space, what are all the different areas you can be shaving costs? And that's just one. Just for example, it's one of them.
I agree, Johnny. And as we keep going, we'll see that cost will be a big advantage for these housing, but also going completely green, net zero carbon, etc.
Yes.
Green materials, the way that we build can be a lot safer as well. So there's a lot of I guess improvements that need to be done and changes. This is why we need more PhDs out there researching and it's writing and reading and researching, because that's really what PhD is all about. But that's what I'm seeing in terms of development.
Do you see just real quick side note there? Do you see more fellow professionals stepping into the 3D, or getting, I guess, PhDs in 3D printing or ancillary fields, Ray, from your perspective?
I do see it, but we need more schools to offer it. I mean,
yes,
there was about literally 2 or 3 schools that I was able to find that provide a real estate development PhD, where it allows you to focus on 3D printing overall. So I think we need more schools that can offer real estate development and 3D printing as an option for students to do their PhD in. That's why I kind of went to Liberty University, because they have a great program for real estate development and leadership. And they have also a lab with the weather chambers. They have enough space, and they also have basically the platform to allow you to do research on 3D printing. So that's why I went to Liberty, and they're a great university. I had a chance to go down there. Very sweet people. And
where are they located? Where are they located? Like, give us real quick stats on that. So where are they located, and like how many students, and what are they known for?
Got it. So they're in Lynchburg, Virginia.
Okay.
I don't know how many students they have, to be honest with you, because they have a good online program and also on-site program.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But what I do know is that for the past 7-8 years, they have not changed their pricing for the credits. I mean, my credit is like $595 compared to other schools that can be a lot more.
Yeah.
So they're affordable. They're a Christian university, well known in the South. And what was the third question, Johnny?
Let's see, what was it? What are they well known for? Yeah, that was that was like, something like, it's an engineering school, or their MBA is in credit, like Wharton or MIT is engineering, or Columbia is their journalism school, like that.
So it is my first year. I do know that they're the largest Christian university, private, in the US.
Yeah.
I do know that they're really good in sports, and that's really about it. What I know so far, being there for 1 year. I mean, I had a chance to go on campus, and again, everybody is nice. A lot of smart kids there, and they really want to, I guess, lead in innovation. I mean, when I went down there, the dean invited me to a CEO summit. I was like 600 CEOs, and he knew about what my colleague and I were working on in terms of 3D printing.
Yeah.
And because we mentioned that, they literally opened up their book. They're like, hey, we'll give you 22 acres of land. We'll buy a machine.
Incredible.
Give you an office space. We'll contact all the alumni. We'll go after companies to get you guys noticed. We want to be part of this innovation, this upfront of housing with 3D printing. So they're very, very supportive. And I think every university should back up their students like that.
Yes.
It will make a huge difference. And they're like, any patent you create here is yours. And if you can't pay for it, we'll help pay for it. and no worries on you. You keep shining bright. I'm
Oh,
like,
that's an amazing, just like, it's not just like, I guess the details and the policy, like the fine print, not across the board, but I mean, in general, it sounds like, very, very supportive in spirit, like across the board. They sound like they're very supportive of their
yeah,
students in spirit. So that's incredible that you've been able to connect, and of course, be accepted and be working on this amazing PhD program there at Liberty. One thing we haven't talked about a lot, Ray, and I know you have some experience here as well, is the role of government in the spaces. Now we know nonprofit is kind of like, basically like government or government type stuff, but is that in your mind, is nonprofit the equivalent of government doing something, or are they two separate areas?
I think it's two separate areas.
Yeah,
I've been in the nonprofit space. A nonprofit can really work in real estate just as much as a for-profit business can work in real estate.
for
Uh,
sure.
the thing is, it's just not for profit.
Yeah.
And
Well,
yeah,
let me continue with that idea. So then specifically government. So that's something we didn't really talk about. So since they are distinct, and I thought they were as well. Give us just a few minutes here on what the role of government that you've seen should be and has been.
so part of my journey of when I started in 3D printing was go straight to the top.
Yes.
And I went straight to the top. I met with Secretary HUD, Marshall Fudge, in
I thought you
Washington.
could talk, like I said, you scheduled President Biden, like, wow, good work, man.
I'm like, hey, if I'm going to go all into this, I'm gonna go straight to the top. And
Yeah.
learned that when I was in Mexico and I worked on a startup for VR, is just start top government, university presidents, consulates. And if they love the idea and they accept it, then that means it's gonna trickle effect very well towards the bottom.
Yes.
So I went straight to the top, and surprisingly, that Marcia Fudge knew about 3D printing. She
Yes.
actually owns a 3D printed wall in her office.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then when I went to go see her in DC, she had a speech for this innovation showcase, and she opened it up talking about 3D printing and the role of technologies, and that's going to be happening in housing going forward. So she was able to speak on the topic of 3D printing. She also met with a 3D printing company on site there with the machines. She kind of learned how to use it, but she was talking about how there'll be more programs out there to provide funding for research and development in the field, and to provide incentives for builders and developers to adopt 3D printed construction techniques, which is great because I think once the government plays a role in creating the standards and regulations for new technology, then that helps to move the industry forward, and it helps to kind of meet those quality standards. Overall, it helps to promote more partnerships with builders and developers, so we can start, reaching out to the demand that we have for affordable housing. And not only that, but when I was there, I learned that HUD had several programs. One of them that I didn't know about, which I'm sure the listeners 99% may not know about this, but Section 3. Have you heard of Section 3 before?
Never in my life, but if I think Section 8, like, well, they had to get to 8, so I imagine there was 1 and 2 and so forth.
Yeah, so I guess there's more than just 8, but Section 3 is a program that's located, or it's available for every state in the U.S. And it's a program for people between age 16 to 25 that are looking for apprenticeships, looking for a second opportunity.
Oh, okay.
And the government has grants available for each state for employers that want to tap into this database of, potential employees that want to learn about a craft or a trade and work.
Yes.
I didn't know that. So that can apply to any sort of 3D printing company today. They have, and well, any business have access to that as well. So I think it's critical for government and policy to work together and kind of create that critical role in promoting the use of 3D construction and show the impact. And I think now that we're seeing a lot more housing being created with 3D printing machines, I think this year in 2023, we'll see a lot more case studies, more data be poured out there. And personally, myself, I'll be applying for grants, for research grants from HUD to dig deep into affordable housing and 3D printing.
That makes a ton of sense. Thank you for going through that with us. And one other note, kind of within that, and you touch on just a little bit, and that is, of course, since the new technology, newer, not brand new, but newer technology, and many developers and builders don't have expertise. Obviously, just like with anything else, we need to build a skilled workforce to run the machines and run the software and the CAD programs and all these different newer skills that aren't out there, or at least in whole, they're not out there. So we need the training and developing workforces will be critical for the success of this as well. So that's an amazing share about Section 3. So moving to the last segment here, Ray, what advice would you give anyone who's interested? So obviously you're interested, I'm interested in incorporating tech and 3D construction into their operations.
Yes. Oh, a few things. I think number one, start is just educate yourself.
Education.
Yeah, education is the number one thing that if you're a beginner, it's important to have, but also have access to. I think people who are in the industry should promote more education out there.
Yeah. And just for that, so again, practical, I always like to throw a practical thing in there. And what does that mean in practical? So if I was like, hey, Ray said I should get educated, like, okay, it makes sense, but like I go to Liberty U, do I sign up for a PhD, or is there something not quite as committed in that to my life as that to learn more about this space?
So number one is right now I'm helping to build a 3D printing home builder association. I'm on the advisory board. And that's a great place to start, is to join the association. That can be, I'll kind of give you the website for those that are listening. It's 3D Home Builders with the S, association.com. There you can sign up and have access to basically all the information about what's happening in 3D printing, who are the players, the major players, who are I guess the different departments of 3D printing in terms of materials, equipment, support, maintenance, all that stuff. Basically, for someone who wants to get into the field and learn and network with people, that's one way to get started. Number two is go to YouTube and just research 3D printing.
Good old YouTube.
Yeah, and just look at the different builds out there, the different companies that, what they're doing out there and how it works, the technology. Number three is basically there's some folks that have courses out there. Some are updated, some are not. I can provide a list afterwards. I don't have it in front of me.
Sure.
But I think getting access to courses is important. Folks who are interested in 3D printing, either as a student or a professional, I kind of tell them to start small. What does that mean? Well, you can basically today, Johnny, buy a small 3D printer for like 200 bucks.
Amazon. Yeah. Go do it, folks. If you really ever want to get into this and know what it looks like, what the mechanics are. I mean, like they're micronized, but also, so, basically it's the like giant version of the small one you get from Amazon is the 3D printing.
Yeah. And print your own little cup, a little cartoon figure or something. Because what happens is that it's going to give you the fundamentals of how to 3D print something. You create a 3D model object, and then you slice it, and then that converts to a G code that the machine can understand. And then you choose what materials you're going to use for that machine, and then you print something, and voila, right? Now, so if you enjoy that process very much and you had fun, well, now you can scale up, because believe it or not, when it comes to 3D printing a car, a boat, or a home, right, which is huge, it still follows the same fundamental process of, you still have to have a 3D object in the software like AutoCAD or Revit. And then you have to slice it up and then convert it to a G code that the machine can understand, second print layer by layer. It's the same process. So that way, what I learned within my years of working in startup is first learn the fundamentals, validate your idea, and then scale up. So, and then also, if you're gonna fail very cheap and not very, very expensive.
Yes.
I think for under $500, you can test your model, your business model, by having a small printer. And then from there, you can scale up and now, pursue 3D printing for construction if that's where you want to go.
That is fantastic advice there, Ray.
Yeah.
So wrapping it up here, what is what media channels and what is the best way for people to reach out and connect with you?
Yeah, the best way is through LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
Just put my name, Reynaldo Santana, and my photo pops up. That's really the best way. I have some information there about 3D printing. So I say LinkedIn is the best way, Johnny.
Awesome, man. And I, of course, will drop in the show notes your link, and then any information you just mentioned, a list there of some resources that we also will put that in the notes. And this show will be uploaded to YouTube. We'll create a YouTube channel here. And of course, this is like we said, it's beginning one of our newer episodes of the House Now 3D podcast. So this is really exciting. So Ray, thank you for being with us. Thank you for sharing all that knowledge. It's been tremendously helpful. I know the audience that will listen to this will get a lot out of it. So until next time, I'll see you around.
Thank you, Johnny. Great job hosting.